Happy New Year, everybody, 2023. 7th Street Gifts is thrilled to be back with Lawrenceburg Public Library, you and the Friends of Lawrenceburg Library, to offer you the year of teas. So this year, every month that you register for your program and come in and check your kit out, you'll have about a 1/4 ounce of loose leaf, certified organic fair trade premium tea. And in the world of tea, there's a huge variety, and that's what we're going to spend this year discussing. So by the end of the year, you'll have basically tasted and sampled every type of true tea in the palette of tea choices. So for the new year, for January, we're going to start with green tea, which we all know is like reputed with health benefits and low caffeine content and things of that nature. So for January, the loose leaf tea that's going to be in your kit is a jasmine green tea. And so that's what you are going to have for January. Now we're going to talk just a little bit about general teas and your specific green tea and what's going to make it different than another tea you would have from a previous or a month coming up ahead. So jasmine green tea, just a little disclaimer, and it's also going to be in your handout in your brochure. It's about a 3-minute steep time. So generally it's about 1 minute to 2 minutes less of a steep time than black teas. And that's because it can kind of get an astringent or grassy flavor if you let it steep too long. And this is what's super cool. I'm going to be our focus for the year, and I'm going to repeat it again and again, but it's kind of a really neat fact that I think gets lost in the shuffle of society and all the drinks that we have, is that true tea, a true tea, when we say I would like a cup of tea, and it's a genuine tea, not like a peppermint or a chamomile or a rose or even an elderberry, those would be tisanes. But if it's really tea, it comes from a plant that's shrub and bush-like called Camellia sinensis. And every true tea comes from the same plant, Camellia sinensis. And in some cases, the actual same plant where they get harvested. So you could pick tea leaves from the same bush, the same Camellia sinensis, and have a green tea, a white tea, and a black tea. So it's the processing, the harvest time, the oxidation, fermentation, smoking, all sorts of techniques or lack thereof, if you have a pure, crude, or gray tea like a green, is what makes the flavors, the color, the complexity, and the textures, and even caffeine content vary from tea to tea. But I find it fascinating that all true tea comes from the same plant and the same bush, and then it's up to man when they harvest it, how they cure it, how they treat it, and basically turn it into a finished product that determines the color, the taste, and the quality of the final tea. So again, Camellia sinensis is a shrubby, woodsy botanical, and it's now widely cultivated. You can even find them at nurseries and find whole tea gardens and things growing in North America. But by its true origin and where the genus is originated from are in the high mountaintops of the east. So we're talking like way on the other corner of the world east, the eastern continent of Asia. And so that's where Camellia sinensis was native and where she came from. And then this is basically the area of the world, the globe, and the culture and the people who have cultivated and basically turned tea into the widely consumed beverage that we have today. And I didn't write it up here, but just for a fun fact, and I'll probably say it again, tea is the second largest consumed drink in the whole world, globally, planet Earth, after water. So even before milk, there's water and then tea as far as like a widely consumed drink. So I think it's pretty cool that we can be so far apart but share something that's so common at the same time. Now, one attribute of green tea specifically is it holds other flavors really, really well. So you'll oftentimes see green tea flavored like raspberry green tea, strawberry green tea, in our case jasmine green tea, which is actually flavored with true jasmine blossoms that just get plucked off of a jasmine bush. But it's kind of porous and raw and cruder, and it's a good tea to kind of flavor or enhance with other non-tea flavors, such as fruits and flowers. Now, what makes a green tea and not a black or a white, since they do all come from the same Camellia sinensis, is that this is the process, and as we go through each type of tea, we're going to talk about how it's treated and processed and cured and picked, and then that'll kind of lead to why the taste difference and textures would be so different. So a green tea leaf is plucked, so it's just plucked right off the Camellia sinensis, and generally very early in the season, like maybe a spring or early summer. So it's seasonally plucked and harvested in the earlier time of the year. Then it's withered, which basically means it's just allowed to kind of wilt and wither, just as if we plucked flowers, or when your little kids would bring you in love presents and you would set them down and they would wilt and wither because they weren't put into water right away. You basically pluck the leaves and just let them wilt or wither. And then they're rolled and dried. And so when they are rolled, they are still wet. They're kind of damp, so they wouldn't be like crumbly and break. And then they're dried after they're rolled before any curing or oxidation takes place. And this may not make a lot of sense right now, but when we get into our black teas and our assammed and our smoked teas, we're going to get into the curing and oxidation that gets basically applied to the tea leaf that changes its texture, its color, its flavor, its caffeine content, and everything. So green tea, hardly anything's done with it. It's kind of the more primitive, cruder, less adulterated of the teas that we're going to experiment and taste this year. So the drying, when they dry it, it stops the natural oxidation and the enzyme action from taking place in freshly harvested tea leaves. So they kind of dry it quickly after it's rolled to thwart or stop or stunt any oxidation and kind of enzyme breakdown that naturally occurs if you were to let it go on. And again, this is how we get other flavors in different types of teas. But the green tea leaf is not oxidized at all. Or smoked, so it's hardly fooled with. It's about the closest thing of just picking it and making a cup of tea with that we're going to have. So the fact that it is harvested so quickly and that it's not oxidized and no enzyme action is able to happen, it really preserves like the fresh vegetable flavor. And vegetable flavor is a good way to describe it. I almost consider it like grassy. Kind of like if you're out in the woods and you pick like a long grass and you kind of chew on the end. But it tastes green. I always think if you had to explain to somebody who was unable to see the color green and you were trying to give them an example of what the color would be if you weren't able to see it yourself, I feel like a sip or a drink of pure green tea without any sugar or enhancements would basically give you the taste of what green is. Out of the true teas, the Camellia sinensis, green tea does have the lowest caffeine content of a true tea. So the fact that it's thwarted and the way that they dry it and roll it and kind of stunt it, it keeps the caffeine content quite low. So that's the other kind of interesting thing is as we go on and learn more about the other teas, we'll see that as you oxidize, cure, and kind of treat the tea leaves, it actually can bring up and raise caffeine level. So the less fooled with and the purer and cleaner and unadulterated your green tea is, the lower the caffeine content. So it does have some, but it's significantly less. And then also, since it hasn't been, adulterated or treated or cured, it has a really high level of antioxidants and kind of like trace nutrients and things that are very difficult to find on their own. They kind of exist specifically in the world of tea leaves. And the green tea harvests and holds on to the highest nutritional value of all the teas. So if you were trying to make like a tea choice that was low in caffeine but still had some and carried along with health benefits, green tea would be a great decision. And that's why it's kind of a fun one to start January off too. Also, we're not seeing much green right now, right? It's kind of a time to get the winter blues, so I feel like to drink the green tea and see it, it kind of, gives you a little bit of spring in your cup and helps you get out of that funk that wintertime can bring. So the way your tea kits this year are going to work, and these will be for all of them, but we'll go over them again, is that this is going to be loose tea. And so it's not in a tea bag. You're going to get a tea bag in your kit, this little muslin bag, and you're going to use it again and again and use this as a tea bag. Now, if you already have a tea strainer or tea ball at home or your own tea accessories, these loose teas work perfectly wonderful in those as well. But just in case anybody's used to a more traditional tea bag and kind of the westernized notion of tea drinking, we wanted to be sure that everybody had a way to steep and enjoy their tea. And then your certified organic loose leaf fair trade tea is going to be in the little wax food grade envelopes, and it'll be labeled. And this is going to be about 3 cups per kit, give or take, or 1 big pot. Like if you have a teapot and you're going to have friends over, or you know you're going to sit down and drink the whole pot of tea, it'd be 3 to 4 cups or 1 pot of tea. And then what you'll do when you're ready, determining whether you're going to make it all at once or in parts, is you're just going to empty the correct amount and quantity into your bag, muslin drawstring bag, draw it up, and then you're just going to use it just the same as you would a tea bag that you get at the store with the string, and you're going to let it steep, and then set it to the side, let it air dry on a paper towel is what I like to do on my counter, and then next morning or in a few hours, the botanicals are dried, and I usually just kind of flip it inside out into my compost or back into the paper towel or wherever it is you get rid of your stuff. Empty it out and then flip it back. And there's really no reason to wash these in between uses because you're only introducing your tea to them in super hot steaming water, right? And if it were me, I would just reuse it again and again. And if a little bit of tea kind of dried or stayed on there, it's no big deal because it's kind of dedicated. You could consider it like a dedicated kitchen equipment, and you're going to make your teas in it. So this is what they're going to look like, and then you'll get to open them and smell them on your own. And then this jasmine green tea is the beautiful, freshly picked and plucked wilted with pure jasmine flowers in it, which just gives it a really nice like floral note and kind of takes the edge off of that grassiness or astringent flavor that can kind of turn some people off. It kind of softens the edges a little bit. And I also thought it was fun, since a few years ago we did the Year of Flowers and we did jasmine in it, to remind everybody that a lot of flowers are food grade and edible, and jasmine is one of them. So for January 2023, jasmine green tea is your tea of the year for Tea Time with Carisa, the Year of Teas at Lawrenceburg Public Library. And we talked about how all tea, every tea that we get in our kit this whole year, all 12 of them, are all going to come from Camellia sinensis, the same plant, but vary drastically in taste, color, texture, and caffeine content. One reason we like green tea is it's healthy. It has a high antioxidant level, a low caffeine content, and it holds on to a lot of other flavors really, really well. So it's a good one to kind of enhance or glean a second or third flavor in and use for your tea blending. So next month we're going to do Young Hai San, which is another green tea, and it is not flavored with a flower, so it'll kind of give you the sense, the graduating sense of the earthiness and the texture. And if you get both kits and compare them, you'll really notice the difference the jasmine flowers make, especially when you taste one without them. Because sometimes the jasmine, if you're not super used to it, can kind of get lost. But then if you drink a green tea without jasmine flowers, you can definitely tell the softness and the roundness of the body and flavor, and how the jasmine flowers really do change like the flavor of the tea. So here we go. At tea time, everybody agrees, just as Taylor Swift. And we're going to talk about Young Hai San for February. And we're 7th Street Gifts, a small family-owned and operated brick-and-mortar apothecary in Newport. And we do all the loose leaf teas there. So if you're in the city, come down and check it out. Thanks a lot.